This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be with you again.
It is lovely to be with you in the multiverse of radio land, podcast land. We have a very interesting show for you today. It is Consciousness and the Art of Reframe. We're talking about how the way we look at issues can limit the changes and available outcomes. So if you want different results in your life, join us to explore how viewing things as consciousness provides a way to reframe and shift the dynamics in your issues.
And it's a really important concept to get and to take it beyond concept into your reality. It's how to reframe things so that you can have changes in your life that are everlasting and effective. So, and we got an invitation to go deeper with us, to connect with us beyond the show. You can join us at our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And there you're going to find out about the podcasts that are listed, our blogs, meetups, sessions. And Joan, you got all the info. What do we got there for them?
I do have all the info because I am omnipotent and I am the cosmic internet. Okay, so yes, if you go, as Janet said, to Conscious Conversations with JoanandJanet.com, you can hear all our podcasts, all our old shows are there. You can read our blogs. Janet and we write different blogs. You can learn about our meetups, because Janet does meetups in Portland on Tuesday and Thursdays in the comfort of her very lovely home. And I do meetups around the Puget Sound in Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, University Place, and sometimes Vashon Island. So this weekend, I'm going to be in Tacoma on Saturday, July 1st, from 3:45 to 5:45 at the Wheelock Library in the Proctor District in North Tacoma. And then on
tonight you're someplace.
I am. I jumped the gun there. It's like, but tonight, please let me remember this. I'm in University Place, which is south of Tacoma. So this is Wednesday, June the 28th, and I'm there from 6:30 to 8:45. I think we're in the small conference room tonight, and that happens to be next to Whole Foods on Bridgeport Way for folks who are curious. And then Sunday, I'm in Seattle at the Magnolia Library, Sunday, July 2nd, at the Magnolia Library from 2 to 4. And yeah.
What are those Facebook address?
Oh, those Facebooky things?
Yeah.
Well, the Facebooky things are, our names. So Janet Barrett, you can find her as Janet Barrett. You can find me as Joan Newcomb. And you can find us as Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. So you can join the group and join the fun. You can find us on Twitter. The Twitter handle for the show is @Joan and Janet. Janet's Twitter handle is Janet Beyond. And I am Joan Newcomb, because I have no imagination. And you can subscribe to us on YouTube, because the show is on YouTube. And I am also on YouTube, and I post all my YouTubes on our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We also have, before our conference call, I'm going to be on a global telesummit talking with a woman from England who is coordinating this globally. It is the Transformation to Joy Global Telesummit. It is going on right now, and my interview is on Tuesday, July the 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And you can find the exact links and all that on our website, ConsciousConversationsWithJoanandJanet.com. Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And I am Joan, along here with Janet. And we are talking about consciousness and the art of reframe.
Which is a really important skill to have. It's why our lives changed, Joan.
Yes.
Because we had the ability to reframe. We took what we thought who we were in life and how to approach it from a different aspect, that aspect being his consciousness, and that it all was fluid, that there was no time and space. And so that changes the dynamics and the energy. So it's great. It's a life-saving skill as far as I'm concerned. It made all the difference in my life. So what are we noticing about?
Well, that's a good question. What we're noticing, we're reframing things. Actually, I was just thinking is that in complete transparency, my dog is dying, and I have been telling people for about a week that she has been dying on our kitchen floor. And then I decided to make it less stressful for myself. I would reframe it to that she was living on our kitchen floor. But at this point now, I really wish she was dying on our kitchen floor. It's like, oh, did I affirm it the wrong way? Because she keeps going in and out. We're just doing sort of home hospice for the dog and have it all natural. Right. But she's just too damn perky for someone who's 3/4 the way gone. Yeah. So anyhow, but the reframe, I'll have to say that the other thing I have done, and dogs have helped me with this, is reframe being in a crisis to it being an event. Yeah. So, cause what you tell yourself in your head about something can be very, can be more traumatic than the actual thing that's going on. So if you go, oh, this isn't a crisis, this is just an event, it gives you a bit more clarity to work with.
Right. It gets you out of that, that reactive place into a responding place and the difference being in reactive is where you're triggered and you're in emotional and you're invested in it. And when you can say stop, okay, take a breath. Now let me see how I want to respond. That's the key. And sometimes it's in the flash of a moment. It's not like you have it takes a lot of time. It is in just that awareness of how to do it. And also for people in their stories, because we're challenged by our issues and how we deal with them. If we see them as problems or if we see them as challenges, if we see them as way to experience life. I mean, what's your context for how you live your life? And that's the reframe and how to take something. And no matter how people or the world or anyone else is viewing it, it's how you experience it. And, that is the ultimate power, is realizing, okay, in the framework that I've got this in, only so many outcomes are possible. And if I let go of what I think this is, what more is possible? And that can make all the difference. So,
yeah.
So shall we go into heart space then? And we're already there. We've been pushing that with the dog, certainly.
Right. So that's fabulous. Let's just go there.
We'll go there. We'll invite all of you, our listeners, to join us as we think about Emma and her journey, and then Joan and her husband Dave is on their journey together. So as we just open the awareness up, there we go. Let's just open that up. And as we explore heart-centered awareness, the field of unifying consciousness, where we get beyond our emotional state into the big picture. So notice your heart. Be grateful, appreciative that it's there. There we go. Into that second realm, the emotional terrain. We have all kinds of emotions and we're being triggered emotionally, and especially when those that we love and have spent time with are in transition. So allow for that and just don't resist it. Allow whatever might be noticed. There we go. And then we slide into the core essence of all, where you and I are one, and Emma is one with us. And it's just how we've configured light photons, biophotons, and frequencies and vibrations and information. And they all fit into patterns and resonances. And so all that, let it just get soft. There you go. Feel the wiggle room. And this is the infinite sea of potential. This is where we play. This is where it's not what you think it is. It is only what you perceive it to be. And that's a very different space. So as you allow yourself to change your perceptions, that's the reframe. Nothing wrong with perceptions. We all have them about different things. And they are flexible. There we go, everybody. And so what it's like for all of us to hold others in their transition. And realize our connections. And allow for warmth, support, non-judgment, grace. So often when others are making transitions, we realize how much it is about us and how that colors the experience. And we don't judge that. We just allow ourselves to notice that. It's all the unresolved, all the undone, all the what ifs. There we go. There we go, everybody. Let's just allow for ourselves to relax. Because in consciousness, there is no resistance. We just see that as part of the big picture. It's not what it is. Got a lot of burning in the chest, it feels like. So just notice that. There we go. There we go, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. We can feel that support, that connection. How you doing, Joan?
Yeah, I'm feeling the connection. I'm feeling other people's feelings about it as well, and it is so much about ourselves with whoever else is passing and how we frame it. How I tend to frame it is that, for instance, I'm midwifing back to spirit. Mm-hmm. And how do you frame it?
I think that's an excellent way to put it, because midwifing is that person who helps the process coming in. It's also the process of going out. We like probably, I don't know what's the term we use for, a hospice, I guess, when people are transitioning out. But I don't think that's just a word of direction, right? So, yeah. Yeah. And anyone, you can feel the energy in the world these days. A lot of people are transitioning. And it's allowing them grace no matter their circumstances. And we're all in this together. And that's the power of the collective and consciousness, and all of us as one. So that's a big reframe right there, is that we have to understand, if we can experience ourselves, because there's no right or wrong. It's just the way I know you and I hold it, that if we recognize ourselves as one, there's so much support in that right there. And so often we feel alone and isolated. So there's lots of things. How's reframing helpful for you, Joan?
Well, just as I was sitting here reflecting on it from heart space, I got the feeling of being in Grand Central Station. And, people are getting off the trains and they're getting on the trains, and it's just this mass sea of people, because you had said earlier, a lot of people are transitioning, and I thought, well, People transition all the time. I mean, X number of, human beings are being born at any moment and X number are leaving. And it really is, from the perspective of consciousness, it's a breathing in and a breathing out. It's a flow of a sea of not just whole humanity, but, life awareness and creativity. And from that perspective, there's no attachment to it. And there's also no loss to it. It's just part of the flow of life.
For me, that's great. That really triggers in viewing that, or finding myself in that experience of the train station, is wonder. You see people going everywhere. Where are they going? What are they doing? Where are they coming from? I mean, it can be exciting. It can be numbing. It can be so many different experiences to feel in that place. But it's always going to be, look at all of us occupying this space for me. So, I like going to train stations and airports and stuff, and I just go, whoa, look at all of this, because we can just sit at home alone, not hear all of it. So how, in reframing, changes the story, changes the issue, how we look at it and release the energy that gets trapped. Because if you have an issue, you have only so many, you have the conditions that create that issue, and then you want an outcome. And so often you can't have a different outcome because you can only imagine certain possibilities. And that's where it's a presence of mind and not heart. Because heart, and as consciousness, you free that up. You go back into the state of potential. And if you just notice the energy, not the emotion of it, if you free it from the emotion and how you think it has to be, that allows the energy to just be present. And then you can track the energy. And in doing that, all kinds of things can happen. You're going to have a predisposition to certain, we say, potential into possibilities, and there's a difference between potential and possibilities, because possibilities are the limits within a framework. Potential is all, anything can go, because nothing is yet. So you start with potential, you find the possibilities, and then you're going to choose out of the possibilities. So that's going to be different for everybody, but a lot we'll share.
That's interesting. You were talking about possibilities, and what popped into my head is that there are also probabilities. Mm-hmm. And the difference between possibilities and probabilities. Mm-hmm. And then this idea that if there are multiple realities operating simultaneously, so the idea that I have that this is like a full immersion video game, and if you're just individually playing the game, then you're going one trajectory. But if you're infinite consciousness, all trajectories are happening at once. Mm-hmm. So it's not, they're possibilities, they're probabilities. It's not that they haven't come into form, they are in form running at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And this is infinitely more complex than our little tiny brains can wrap around.
Right. Well, that's why we have this shared reality, right?
Yes.
Because right there in a nutshell is the conundrum we're in. It's like, okay, so if you open up that information is flowing in all these different states, how do I keep together here? And here is really important. And so what we're looking at is how you've conditioned being here. Because you can only track so much information. And I would hazard to guess that on the unconscious level, all those other realities are operating, right? And so, and we kind of dash in, go between some of them at the same time kind of thing and flip in and out. Or maybe that's a poor use of the word flip. I think we at times, gracefully slip into different realities. And then I think there's times when it's a full smash in the face kind of shift of reality. Yeah. And so all those are possible, to play
right. And you were saying that they were going on an unconscious level, and I'd say they were going on a super conscious level.
Got it.
If you look at that, we are actually consciousness beyond what our ego and our mind and our personalities know. We are the greater aspect of ourselves, and that's the part that can comprehend so much more. I was glancing at an article, didn't spend a huge amount of time going in depth, but it was on Nautilus, and it was saying that chaos makes the multiverse invalid or something. And I thought, well, that's a very limited perspective because it could be a chaotic multiverse. I mean, all the multiverses could be chaos. But it was fascinating to glance at it and see it from that very, not necessarily linear, but very mechanical viewpoint. And when you can get really bogged down in the physics of it, and the minutia, and not realize that it's beyond our science and it's beyond our comprehension. And it's a greater aspect of ourselves that comprehends all of it.
Well, because consciousness is here first, and then we embody. So consciousness is still always there, whether the conscious, the physicalness of us is tracking that very much. And this is about opening up and being awake to, I am consciousness, and this is the meat suit around it, and the experiences that the meat suit's going to have, and this is what the meat suit sets up as its filters, right, and its perceptual biases and stuff.
Right, and and I would say it differently, because saying that consciousness is there first makes consciousness something other than you are. You are consciousness before you're born, after you're born, and while you're born. You are consciousness coming into form. So you have created this reality by focusing into this form, but you're also simultaneously, instantaneously focusing in all forms that ever was and ever is.
Yeah. That just goes to explain the dynamics of us, right? Because we get stuck into thinking this is it.
Yes.
And this is the reality, and this is the one. And what we're trying to open people up to is the awareness that you're navigating. We are so dynamic, we cannot conceive of how dynamic we are. And which is basically what you're saying. And it's like stuff is going on you don't have a clue about, but there's some part that does. And so we're always going to refer through our human sensory mechanism, because that's what we have. And then there's everything else, and it's how we engage between the two, and how they come into play, and how they dance. And so for me, consciousness is always first, and then we're the expression, the particular flavor of that, and that's the individuality that we have. But we have more people on the planet than we used to have, so that comes into play too, I think. Something's showing up more, and the power it has to destroy itself. I mean, we have to be a little less attached.
So you dropped into one possibility and the storyline of the one possibility. And so as consciousness, we're bigger than the story, and that all possibilities are running at once.
Exactly. Yep. We just do our level best, right? To keep track of where we are today. Because we do better. It's easier. right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So, what do we do with this information? And do we wander around bumping into trees because they weren't there in another storyline?
Yeah.
And right, it's, focusing in the present moment, being right here in the present moment. And the whole topic of the show was about reframing. So, I'm inviting people to reframe their perspective of who they are and how they operate in the world, and to see themselves as something bigger or greater than just their body personality. And when you reframe it like that, your external reality completely changes. You don't have the same attachments. You have access to more possibilities of interacting and responding to the world, and strange, inexplicable things do start showing up in your reality when you've reframed from that bigger perspective as well.
And it's all subject to what we would like. There is comfort in what we know, or what we think we know, or what the pattern is. And even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's painful, we're all familiar with how we keep on the same pattern and it keeps playing over and over and over, and it's kind of like you shoot yourself in your foot every time. So there's different degrees in this. What we're looking to offer our listeners is the awareness that how different, if we get out of the victim abuser role, I guess those go together, and we're more into, as consciousness, that we get to make these choices and we get to enjoy our framework that we've set up, where you can be different and still have your experience in a way that's useful for you. It may be that you have a habit or a trait or a reaction that you're noticing that you really would like to have different. And so if you can break it down and allow yourself to be in this state with it, heart-centered awareness, where potential is invited, you're not having the attachment to it. You're just looking at the dynamic of the energy. And is there a way we could just shift that just a little bit, and you can still be who you think you are, but you could also be enriched who you'd like to be. And you're closer to who you are in your truth. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. So.
In some universe, it makes sense.
And that's what's fun, right? There's all kinds of universes out there. Definitely.
I do know for me, if my version of reality is limiting, if my version of reality is dramatic, if my version of reality is painful, all of those, I know that I'm viewing my reality from my body personality's perspective. Right. And so it's very helpful when I shift or reframe my perspective to myself as greater consciousness. It uplifts the storyline. It makes things expansive and joyous and even amusing. So, it's where if you have a sense of humor about something, that even if it's, black humor or a hospital humor or a
cosmic joke.
Yes.
I totally get
yes,
the cosmic joke.
Then you know that you're viewing things from your perspective, the expanded perspective of consciousness.
Well, and I think maybe kind of a challenge for people sometimes might be that, well, how does the rest of the world view that? Right? And we're immediately, because we're all one, we go back into we switch back to, oh, I'm supposed to feel bad about this kind of thing. And it conditions how you are, and it separates you more because you feel you have to show up a certain way. And it's like, well, the more you can realize or allow yourself to experience that as what they think, and the power of a morphic field, which is the collectively held belief systems and the whole spectrum of that, how we relate to stuff, how we relate to things that happen. How do you want to feel? And because I can see where people, and I have it in myself at times, I solicit information or an opinion, or someone offers me an opinion about something, and I go, yeah, you're right. Maybe you're right there. Okay. Or I can really respond and go, no. Or I can go, you're right. No, that's your experience. That's
Right.
not mine.
They're right in their reality, but they're
Yeah.
not right in your reality. I had lunch this weekend, had dim sum this weekend with my cousin and her husband, and they're in town visiting their daughter who just had a baby. And her husband is a badass. He is.
Does he refer to himself?
No,
that way?
in fact, that might not be the right language for him. But to me, he is a badass. He's a Presbyterian. No, he's not. He's a Baptist. He's a Baptist pastor who's also just retired from 26 years in the Army Reserve. Except that since Bush, I think the Army Reserves have been active duty. So he's been active duty as a chaplain in Afghanistan multiple times. And you can this guy has seen it all. And and Baptist is fairly conservative Christians, and they're staunch Republicans. And it was so interesting to sit at the table with that reality, which is no longer my reality. I was raised staunch Republican and Presbyterian, and realized that, here I'm a liberal snowflake sitting at this table, but my badassery is different, and the things that I have soldiered through is different and can't be measurable from that other viewpoint. I would say that we have different kinds of merit badges, and certain spiritual merit badges are invisible to ones who carry, the battle scars of life. I have battle scars of life, but it's not measurable. And plus he doesn't know mine. I'm just a liberal snowflake with my hair's too long kind of thing, whatever it is. But it was really interesting to also get the bigger picture of, it was interesting to get the bigger picture of the people who are in this world, who are I would say, the builders and the settlers in the world. They're the ones who hold the space for that which is already concretely there. And that is their purpose in the evolutionary framework of things. They carry the message that has been there, and they build the towns and the cities. And I'm a different spectrum.
Well, it's like on the planet Earth, you
Yes.
have mountains and you have rivers. And you're more of the river and he's more the mountain. And there's a place for both, right? It's not one or the other. It's how we allow for both and respect each other in our strengths and have compassion for each other in our weaknesses, and to understand we're both on the planet. So if that's consciousness and you have these two very, different, but they serve, okay, so there's a word that they just are, right? We don't question a mountain being there. We don't question the river being there. So they just are.
Yeah.
And we come and we find them.
And over millennia, the river can change its shape and can move. Mountains do change, but they change differently.
Yeah.
So, how I would reframe it I see myself as a light bringer, and part of my purpose, besides to enlighten and to bring in this leading edge information that is helping with the collective evolution, is that I also help to break family patterns. Therefore, I don't represent those family patterns. There are other people there who go into the family business, who carry on the family belief systems. And those are the settlers. And I'm the one who breaks and creates new ones. That can be it can be equally uncomfortable on either side, I think.
Right. Yeah. I think.
And makes for people, if we can hold so for instance, neither is wrong. And both are necessary in evolution. Both are necessary for creating a country. You have those explorers who find the land in the first place, and then they also blaze trails. And then there are those who set up the ports and the banks and the schools. And then in between you've got the pioneers who are, in the wagon trains going across the trails that have been blazed. So we're all vital for the evolution of humanity. We're all vital for the game we're all playing here.
I think another aspect of this is that everything is till it isn't. The challenge being when you think that's the only thing, the only way. Richard Bartlett from Matrix Energetics was always great about, well, it is this till it isn't, because that's the way it works in the quantum world, I guess.
Right.
And so what would it be like if the mountain realized you was a river and you as a river realized you were a mountain? And I mean, to just whatever that is. That's
happening to a lot of people nowadays, and it
right.
completely makes them plots. I mean, they're losing the...
Well, and one thing I had been thinking about before we started the show was the energy. I was reading something that said more people were becoming evangelical. And I was struck by that because I think what happens when in all this chaos, turmoil, that's all the surface stuff, in the unfolding that's happening and where people are getting in touch with what's inside of themselves, there is an inclination to go towards what you know because it offers a security even if it hurts. So people maybe turning back to what they know is strong, what they know is solid, what they know, because the fluidity is really, doesn't feel so good. And so we have to appreciate that in the dynamics of what's happening. So if we can just empower the state of awareness that no matter what state you're in, you're okay. And your ability to navigate life. Sometimes you need to be the river. Sometimes you need to be the mountain. Sometimes you need to be the tree. Whatever it is, there are places and times and spaces because those are the human reference. Now, with consciousness, there's no time and space. So all these can exist at the same time. And if you're allowing those to be real, what if we got more fluid and flexible about engaging ourselves? You don't have to be your story. That's what's important here. You shift into the realities, states that are as true that, I'm this, and here I need, it would be more useful if I was like this. I see people do it all the time.
So, I'm several sentences behind you because I'm thinking of something you said maybe a couple paragraphs ago now. And so the double slit experiment and which showed that our observation affects the outcome. Mm-hmm. So you were saying how Richard said that, something is until it isn't. Right. But I would add to that it is because we're observing it that way.
Right.
And if we take away our
that particular focus,
it
becomes something else.
Different. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Which ties into so many things to do with transformation, because often, the transformation happens when you look away, when you stop trying,
yes.
It becomes different.
Yeah.
And I would say also is if you suspend judgment, if you observe with neutrality, without defining or labeling, then you can see things as different.
You can really get a sense, I think.
It actually makes things different, I meant to say.
Right.
Like, transformation can happen when you step back.
Yes. Well, because your investment is different. You can feel, here, listeners. Notice you have an issue, right? And notice where your investment is in it. And what if that wasn't the way to get what you want? What could be different? And if you just invite yourself to hang in that space for a little bit there, I have a feeling we've got to come up on commercial break here sometime soon. Or wherever that may be. I know you're tracking that, Joan.
Any moment now. Any moment now. Yes.
Allow it to soften in this state. Just allow it to be. Allow yourself to notice information differently and see what shows up.
And I invite everyone to do that and hold that space while we are taking a break, because you are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm Joan, she's Janet, and we're going to take a break here, but we'll be right back talking about the consciousness and the art of the reframe after these messages.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about consciousness and the art of reframe.
So we left at the break there, everyone who was choosing to participate with some kind of issue that maybe could just be a little different if we allow for a reframe. And just notice how you're doing with that. There's so much we can reframe. So you can take it as far as you want. And there we go. There we go, everyone. Very good. That feels better. That feels a lot better. I think I'm feeling a burden on my back now.
Interesting. There's a heaviness in the air.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder about that. I would reframe it. I think about, something like that is maybe, something collective that is in the process of moving out, maybe being birthed into something different, but it feels burdensome right now.
Yeah. I have a feeling it's a lot about family, just because when I get hit in that space, it's usually about family.
We were talking about family with staunch belief systems. Yeah. Do you have any family members who have staunchly different belief systems than yours?
Well, I think it was more a matter of they don't have a clue.
Yes.
About my belief system.
Yes.
And it wasn't that they were... you know how we learn to disguise ourselves because, it's just easier to fit in, and it takes so much energy, and we don't want to invest in having to confront. And not that it would be a confrontation, but it would be because that's the way the other party is holding that dynamic. When you challenge them, or when they experience something as a challenge, okay, and it could just be clean, non-adulterated, oh, here's a thought, and they take that, they experience that in their framework, their perceptual bias, that's a threat. And so they respond accordingly. And they don't respond, they react accordingly. And so before I got very skilled at understanding dynamics, my experience would not have been too challenged, because that would have come across as a challenge we were both in. And so anymore, I just observe and enjoy, whoa, look at you. You're really in that mindset. And when I put that other person's brain set on, because I have, we can do that, I go, oh, this hurts my head so bad. It gives me compassion for that person. It doesn't mean I don't have my reaction to it, but it's like, oh.
Yeah, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just observe them from the outside? Why put their brains on?
Well, in order to understand, sometimes you get so hit with someone's stuff, right? And you go, oh, okay, what the hell's going on here? And you try and sort that out. And that's one skill set, is to, well, what would that feel like? Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I understand, because they're not in a position to be clear. They're not in a position to explain or to be anything other than in a reactionary process.
Well, the other thing is that if you're very attached to your reality being solid and real, then when it is shifting, that's it's life threatening, because you don't exist if you're not solid and real.
Right, and that goes back to how people will go back to what they know.
Yes.
Because it gives them some comfort of some sort and some security, some sense of safety. We were talking about that last night in group, about how safety, if you're looking for a feeling of safety, that you're uncertain. Mm-hmm. And you may not be seeing the uncertainty. You're just busy looking for the safety.
Right. And that it's a huge catch-22, because you're looking outside yourself for the safety, and that's not where the anchor point is.
Not at all.
That's, your body feels more secure when you as consciousness are anchored in it, because a body with a life force in it means it's alive. And if you're not in it, then it means that you're dead. So.
And then you have that relationship between the body, the mind, and the spirit, right? That's a triad of information. And that, sometimes we think of it as an equilateral triangle, but sometimes it can be other shapes. And they're all working together always. And so you may pull more towards one than the other. So.
Yes. And speaking of a triad of information, I have a more than equilateral triangle.
Equilateral.
I didn't pass that part of the SATs. We have a quadrilateral amount of time left here, so I wanted to let people know a couple things. One thing we didn't get to at the beginning was about the Conscious Conference call. Did you want to let them know about that?
Oh, right. So coming up in July on the 20th, which is the third Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. Pacific time, is our chance for anyone, anywhere, to call in and be together on a group free conference call. And we take an hour, we explore just what we do here, but more in terms of what is going on for those people that are involved in the call. And so it's a great way to get support specific for you and our inputs, which for what they're worth, and our awareness of life and how that can be useful for you. So please join us July 20th at 7 p.m. Pacific, and contact us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail to get all that contact information.
And I want to let folks know that if you're in the Tacoma area, that tonight I am at University Place Library on Bridgeport Way. Today is Wednesday, June the 28th, depending on wherever you are.
And that's a library, right?
It's a library.
You did say that. Yeah.
And it's at 6:30 tonight, and doing a conscious conversation. This weekend I am at Tacoma Wheelock Library in the North End, Saturday the 1st, and that is at 3:45. And then on Sunday I'm in Seattle, July the 2nd, at the Magnolia Library from 2 to 4. So there's 3 different times to be able to see me. And regardless of where you are, I am going to be online at the Transformation to Joy Global Telephone Summit. I will be talking about transforming your life beyond your wildest imaginations. And that's on Tuesday, July the 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern at 1 p.m. Pacific. And that's actually 10 p.m. Central European time. So what's
that web address?
I would rather have them go to the link that's on our website, because the link on our website actually goes through my portal and they know who's signing up. So if you go to our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet .com, look on the events page and you will find my Transformation to Joy special link to sign up and get access to all of those recordings. Justice is on there. Justice Bartlett, one of our favorite guests. And then Jade Holm, who's also a fantastic energy worker herself. They're both on this telesummit as well. I mean, good company. You want to tell them more about going deeper with us beyond the show?
You can do that.
Because I can talk faster, right? In 30 seconds or less.
Yeah.
Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Find out more about us at our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Read our blogs, listen to all the past podcasts and future podcasts. There is no time or space as consciousness. You can find out about our meetups. Janet is in Portland. Hers are on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mine are in everywhere you just heard in around the Puget Sound. You can also find out about our sessions that we do. We are on Facebook. I'm pretty certain our links to Facebook are on there, but you can also just enter our names on Facebook and join us there. We're on Twitter at Joan and Janet, at Joan Newcomb, and Janet Beyond. Yeah. And we're on YouTube, and I'm on YouTube, but you can find us on our website. I think I've stuttered everything out.
You got it there. And about your opening for 12 weeks, you have an opening.
I do.
Personal coaching.
I do. What I do is I rarely do one-on-ones anymore. I like to hold space for a longer period of time. So if you want to work personally with me for 12 weeks, one-on-one private coaching, including training on advanced techniques for navigating this new reality, go to our website and look up my coaching programs. It's 12 weeks to transformation to completely change your life.
And we want to thank you all. You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And she's Joan, I'm Janet. And
regardless of where you're listening, thank you for joining and helping create at this time. And tune in next week, same time, same channels.
Bye, everybody.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.